All right, welcome to 303 Garage Talks, and we are super excited to welcome race photographer Ryan Muncy. How's it going today, Ryan?
Really good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. You came out earlier. We had Sean Farrell here, and I know you're buddies with Sean. He's the race director or the executive director of the Bicycle Racing Association of Colorado. Mm-hmm. So you brought your gear and took some pictures earlier of that. And what do you like most about bike racing?
Well, like Sean was saying, it's been a big part of my life, most of my life. I started racing when I was 12 years old, and I started racing in 1985. I stopped racing in 2010 due to life circumstances and injuries and whatever, but I still want to stay on the scene. I love racing so much. It's been a big part of my life, and I didn't want to just walk away from the sport. I want to still stay a part of the sport, just in a different capacity as a photographer. I have a background in photojournalism and just want to carry that over into cycling and see how far that could take me.
So when you, I really wanted to talk to you. I mean, I know you were a little surprised, I think, but I think people who are in the bike racing scene in Colorado know you really, really well. Well, they know of you really well. I thought, well, maybe this would be a great opportunity to get to know you, the man behind the lens, so to speak. But I think what comes across, I'm guessing for most people and for me, and I've worked with you, I've seen you on the rides, you've taken pictures of me riding my bike. It's just this amazing true love of what you're shooting that comes through. I mean, you bring it out of people, I think, because you're not just there shooting pictures. You love being there, and I wanted to hear why that is and what drives you to put all of that gear on and be hot and crawling around and work I've seen you work your ass off.
Well,
what drives it?
I love being part of it. I know the pain and the pursuit that goes into what everyone's doing. I'm familiar with it. I can't do it that well anymore, but I still love it, and I love seeing what people can do, how cycling brings out the best in everyone, just all athletics, and the passion that's behind it. And I get a kick out of seeing people do it, and I love capturing the moments. When I was racing, I wish we had as many photographers that we do now to capture some of my own moments that were good and some that were not so good, you know. I just really enjoy capturing the moments.
And you grew up in the East Coast, correct?
Yes, in upstate New York.
Near Buffalo, was it?
I was born in Rochester, grew up in Syracuse, college in Buffalo.
Okay, all right. So is that where most of your racing took place, in the East?
All over the East Coast, yeah.
And what was your photojournalism background that kind of married to this love of racing with photography?
It started in college, then I worked freelance after college and also worked as a baseball photographer, several smaller newspapers in Buffalo.
Really?
And then when I moved out here, I just carried on what I started back east and continued working freelance, and I still do now. It's hard to find a staff position anywhere as a photographer, so you take what work you can get.
Right.
And I currently still work as a carpenter too in construction, so I bounce between two different worlds.
So when you were doing photography for baseball, what were you shooting?
I was a public affairs photographer for a AAA team in Buffalo, the Buffalo Bisons.
Oh yeah, sure.
And got to be able to shoot on the field for all the games, in the dugout, throughout the stadium, up in the press room. That was a great experience. And then in 1993, the World Games came to Buffalo, and got full access to all the sports there, and just opened my eyes to more sports to shoot.
The World Games, what is that? Like Olympics for amateurs, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not even sure if they're still going on right now, but
yeah.
It was a big event for me back then.
Huh. Interesting. So have you ever photographed any like household name baseball players?
At that time, it was all AAA, but they've all bounced up and down in the majors.
I remember the Buffalo Bison because they used to come out and play the Denver Bears back in the day when we had a AAA team here.
Yeah, the Bisons are still around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like major league. Just, you know, no, I'm just kidding. But so and when did you move out here?
I moved out here in 1995.
Okay.
I left the day after St. Patrick's Day, and I had $300 in my pocket. Got all my bikes, my skis, everything I could pack into my Volkswagen Quantum, and all my camera gear, and just started driving this way.
Really?
And landed in Denver.
You weren't planning to be in Denver necessarily.
No, this was my final destination.
You knew that, okay.
Yeah.
What brought you here?
When I was racing, I qualified for the U.S. Nationals, which were held in Boulder that year.
Okay.
I think it was 1988 or 89. And my team allowed me to stay out here for the whole summer. And I fell in love with Colorado. So I went back and finished school. I did okay in the Nationals.
Yeah.
And had it in the back of my mind, boy, I'd sure like to live here.
Huh.
And cycling played a big part in that because at that time, Colorado was a cycling mecca.
Right. So did you race in any of the races here?
I did a little bit of track racing when I was out here. I did some smaller races, just building up to the Nationals, and of course the Nationals.
So were you like dreaming of a career in Europe or the Olympics?
Of course, I had big hopes and dreams when I was younger.
But you were getting there. I mean, you were in the Nationals.
I leveled out at a Cat 2
Cat
and
2, okay.
couldn't seem to get much further beyond that.
Okay.
And I actually took a small break from racing and then came back to it and then downgraded. And then worked my way back up a little bit again. But I think I found my limits where I was.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about. I've seen some of your carpentry online over the years, and we shared a room last year at the Colorado Classic.
Mm-hmm.
You're up at midnight tweaking files, and you take pictures. You take 1,000 pictures, and you go through, and you're really particular about which ones you finish with. How does that translate to your carpentry?
Carpentry, I've been doing it a long time, and it becomes second nature to me. With my job, I can't sit there and tweak too much. I've got to hurry up, get it done right the first time, move on to the next task at hand.
But do you do like woodworking for fun? Like, do you get into some really elaborate projects for yourself?
I used to.
You used to?
I used to. Not so much anymore.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time. I balance out my one job, which I work more than full time, my photography, and then being a parent to my 2 kids.
How old are your kids?
My son Wyatt, he's 13, and my daughter Quinn is 17.
And do you take pictures of them a lot too, or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because you do some other kinds of photography, right?
Oh yeah, I'll shoot just about everything. I really enjoy shooting portraits, any kind of news event, product shoots, headshots.
Yeah.
Whatever people want.
Do you do landscapes?
No.
So that would be one, yeah. Interesting. What, I mean, when you think about your career as a photographer, what are some of the highlights?
Well, I was a music photographer for a little while. I worked for a band locally here in Denver. And also when I was in New York, I got to shoot a lot of big concerts, which was a lot of fun. You get to meet people that you normally wouldn't meet. You get access where you normally don't get access.
Right.
It's hard to say. There's just so many different things that I've shot.
How about in the cycling space? What are some of your personal highlights?
Early on, when I was starting to dive into cycling photography, I was able to shoot the Core States, which were the U.S. Pro Championships in Philadelphia, several times, and that was just so exciting being a part of that. The Tour de Trump, I shot the first 2 editions of that, and I was there in an unofficial capacity, but getting my feet wet in cycling photography. That eventually morphed into the Tour de Pont. Being part of every USA Pro Challenge as a photographer, that was very special to me. And of course, the Colorado Classic.
And you've done the Tour of Amgen too, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The tour of California.
Tour, yeah.
Yeah. I was very fortunate to be a part of that in 2018.
And I know you work with like Ride the Rockies.
Mm-hmm.
You work with the Triple Bypass. And some of the other local. What other local events do you, on a regular basis, become part of usually?
Pretty much all the BRAC events year round, all road racing and cyclocross season, and right now should be the busy season for all of us right now, but
Right.
it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, obviously you make the bulk of your living with your carpentry and, you know, the work that you just came from around the corner, actually, you said. But it is a revenue producing thing for you doing photography. I mean, as much as you love it, it is something you do make some money on.
Yeah, and one thing I have to remind people, it's not a hobby for me. I do take it very seriously,
Yes.
and I certainly do count on the income coming in from it, which is really taking quite a hit.
Yeah. So how are you working more in other ways without the racing, or how are you personally adjusting with this?
Well, with my kids out of school right now, I'm able to work longer hours at my job in construction, and I am still shooting. It's just not as frequent right now.
Right. Do you get more, bridal things or honeymoon, do you do weddings?
Occasionally.
Okay.
The last wedding I shot was Lance Panagudis.
Lance, everything comes back to Lance on Garage Talks. Our first guest. Well, maybe, there you go, Lance. That's pretty awesome. So obviously you want the racing to continue just because of your livelihood, partly, and probably just missing friends and.
Absolutely. I miss all the camaraderie out there. I miss all of our friends out there doing amazing things, and I just miss being a part of it.
Yeah. What are some of your, what drives you to, what impresses you, I guess, on the local scene, local races? What are some things that really impress you about some of the races that you see, the athletes you know?
I think seeing how riders can progress, like Gage Heck, watched him since he was a junior, rising through the ranks up to the pro level now. A lot of the juniors really impressed me, how far they're taking it. Another thing that impresses me, a lot of heroes I had when I was growing up, when I was much younger, racing, a big chunk of them live out here in Colorado and are still racing.
Like who?
Like Mike Carter, Davis Finney, he's obviously not racing anymore,
Right.
but seeing his son Taylor rise through the ranks, and also getting to race against him and just seeing him surpass everyone. But Norm Alvis is another big name that lives out here and is still racing in his 50s, and there's just a lot of names.
So you know the history. And lately I've seen you were getting on your bike a little bit more. You look like you lost some weight since I last saw you. And talk about your getting back into cycling.
Well, I'm a little bit limited. I had a neck injury several years back, which makes it hard for me to hold my head up for extended amounts of time. But I love being on my bike. I don't care how fast I go these days.
Yeah.
I'm not keeping track of anything. I don't do Strava. I don't even have a bike computer on my bike anymore.
You do keep track of the movies you watch, because I see you post on there.
Yeah, I try and make it through a movie when I ride every night.
Is that what you do?
Yeah.
2 hours, roughly, and just watching a movie or whatever?
About an hour and a half on
Yeah.
the trainer is my limit.
Yeah. How's that feeling?
It's feeling great. I feel like I'm getting some fitness back. I'm losing a little bit of weight. I don't expect to be where I once was, and I'm just feeling good being back on my bike again.
Well, you've got a bride to keep up with, a bride-to-be. Let's talk about that for a minute. Betsy Mercer, who probably many people see this will know, and she's awfully fast on a bike and on her feet. She's a really good triathlete. You told me just today she got her All-American status for Ironman. Is that right?
She sure did. I'm so proud of her. And
Yeah.
she's ranked number 3 in USA Triathlon within her age category, and couldn't be proud of her. I get such a good thrill out of going to races and just shooting her, standing on the sidelines and just cheering for her.
Yeah. Yeah, but talk about just what that relationship has meant to you, just being out there now, besides just cheering for her. And
She's the one I've been looking for, and she came into my life, and she was the one that first asked me out. And I said,
really?
I said, okay. And it stuck. It stuck really well, and I couldn't be happier with her.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about her.
Well, I remember when we were doing the Colorado Classic last year, and you told me you were going to ask her to marry you, but you really hadn't shared it. And you were so excited. I was so excited for you. And then you went to, where did you guys go?
We went on a riverboat cruise in France.
And that's where, so talk about that, because you guys told me some of this story. It was really cool.
It was it was very special. I had we were there for 9 days. We spent 2 days in Paris. Then we went to Arles, Avignon, Grignon, Lyon, several other cities. I'm not remembering them all right now. And my plan was about halfway through the trip. This was a trip of a lifetime, and about halfway through the trip, I was going to ask her.
Yeah.
And the opportunity that I wanted to take, I didn't have the ring on me. So, I took the second opportunity, and it was during a happy hour on the cruise, and nobody was out on the front deck. And I said, this is it. I had the ring on me right in my sock under my pants, and we went to the front of the boat and said all the right words and got down on one knee, and she said yes.
But wasn't there an audience? Like,
the entire boat was behind us, behind glass,
That's right.
which we couldn't see everyone behind us, but happy hour had stopped behind the glass, and everyone was shooting their cell phone pictures of me proposing.
So what happened when you walked into the boat?
We had to compose ourselves, and when we walked in, we got a standing ovation from the entire crew, the captain himself, and all the passengers. It was just such a special moment.
I keep picturing the Titanic scene when they walk in the glass and everybody's there clapping for them. And is that kind of how it felt a little bit?
With the exception that this boat didn't sink.
Right. But I mean, it just seems so romantic. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was a perfect moment.
That's all cool. And you've been, you talked earlier that it's been hard for you guys because you haven't been able to see each other much during this.
Not very much. We're both still working. We're both around many people, and we just have to be cautious right now.
Right.
And we do know that this will pass, but we've only seen each other a handful of times since this is all broken out.
Well, I just want to thank you publicly, however public this becomes, for supporting 303 over the years, and your willingness to share pictures, your willingness, you send me links every time after a race. You're just always really good to keep us in the loop, and we really, really appreciate it, and we love your work, but we love who you are. And me personally, as owner of 303, I can't thank you enough for your support, so I want to thank you publicly.
Of course, I enjoy being a part of it.
Yeah, so we let's hope we all get back to let's toast to Dale's up the road, Oscar Blues. Toast
Cheers.
to a season ahead, hopefully, and we can get some pictures back out there and more garage talks.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.